Hello, everyone, and thank you for taking the time today to watch this on-demand session. The session is recorded, so we can't take live questions, unfortunately. So if you do have any questions, please could you email michelle.tollner@housing.org.uk. Firstly, just want to say thank you to the National Housing Federation for the opportunity to chair this session. I believe it's going to be an extremely interesting and very timely session in light of the recent speech from our Prime Minister on building back greener, and probably more poignantly, the incredible documentary that David Attenborough has just released, which I think will really help focus everybody's minds, his witness statement. So my name's Jake Snell, and I'm the Strategic Asset and Manager and Land Manager at the Abri Group. We're one of the largest HAs in the south of England. My role at Abri is to lead the business's thinking on MMC and ensure that we meet our ambitions of delivering over 25% of all of our new homes using these forms of delivery. I also sit as an officer at the Building Better Consortium, where our main drive is to enable collaboration and aggregation across the sector and our supply chains. So we're here today to discuss sustainability and the drive to net carbon zero or even carbon positive, and moreover how MMC can and potentially will be the answer to this for our new build homes. Joining me today, I have three very interesting and well-versed guest speakers who are going to share their knowledge and experience with us. We have Graeme O'Doherty, owner and director of AnyOffSite consultancy. We have Anthony Greer, corporate director of TALO Elements, and we have Anthony Gerald of MAR Offsite. So during these sessions, we're going to look to explore why building carbon zero or net carbon zero is now a conscious decision. So why wait? Why quality, fabric first, and a future-proof approach to delivery is key. How we can overcome price sensitivity and responsibility, and what ethical dilemmas that may present, and why aggregation and collaboration is the answer to success. So without further ado, here's to our first speaker, Graeme O'Doherty. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Graeme O'Doherty and I run a specialist MMC consultancy with expertise of integrating MMC methods into projects from REBA stage 0 through to delivery. I'm delighted to be asked by the National Housing Federation to talk about how MMC can help achieve the goal of net zero carbon. Next slide, please. To this end, I've prepared a few slides to firstly provide a definition of MMC and net zero carbon, followed by an introduction to some frameworks which can help evaluate social, economic, and environmental whole life costs. The implementation of digital processes, including BIM, can help achieve this, but only if they are adopted at the very start of a project. Next slide, please. So, what is MMC? Well, it is a confusing mix of definitions and different languages, and it's also known as advanced manufacturing for construction, off-site construction, pre-manufacturing, modular, precision manufactured homes, DFMA, even prefab is used frequently. Many other names appear that organizations seem to make up to suit themselves. My own definition of MMC is very simply, it's a method of employing the latest digital technology and simple processes to improve productivity in the construction industry, both on and off-site. This includes off-site manufacture of structures, components, assemblies, and products, together with on-site productivity improvements. Obviously, if this short statement were broken down into its component parts, there's a huge amount of complexity in the detail, and this is where a mindset change is needed, and also where the services of an independent, experienced design, manufacture, and delivery team is needed. The next slide, please. So the MHCLG have come up with a definition, a framework that they released 2 years ago, back in 2018. This defines the different types of MMC, primarily but not exclusively for the residential sector. It was Cast Consultancy who did the work for MHCLG, and it had input from the cross-industry working group, which included the Construction Leadership Council. I'm not going to talk too much about these definitions, but if we want to explore more, then I strongly advise that we learn this common language, as it's one that I think will bring lots of benefits to the whole industry if we all understand and adopt it. Next slide, please. Oh gosh, there's a common theme running through my presentation of confusion, and that's because net zero carbon has had many different definitions. And most recently, the UK government announced a target of net zero for UK greenhouse gases emissions by 2050. The greenhouse gas emissions, or greenhouse gas, that's simply another word for carbon emissions. This followed recommendations by the Committee on Climate Change. The change to legislation came into force on the 27th of June last year, 2019, and this was followed further by legislation banning the use of fossil fuels as heating in new build homes from 2025. This immediately means moving away from the recent popularity of gas heating and finding more sustainable options. Next slide, please. So we can split net zero carbon into embodied carbon and in-use carbon output. This places emphasis on choosing the right materials and suppliers or contractors, all the way from REBA stage 0 through to in-use and then refurbishment, repurpose and recycle, or end of life. Establish your net zero scope and targets at the concept stage and put in place management tools to provide options as the design develops. It's well known that concrete, for example, has a considerably higher level of embodied carbon than timber alternatives, but it may be that concrete offers a longer life to offset the additional carbon. I'm sure this can be debated in other forums and indeed on this one. There are lots of excellent architects, many of them working on net zero carbon projects. However, there are not many with experience of MMC. One of the practices with experienced and innovative architects is a company called Studio Anyo. They've been employed recently by Waltham Forest Council and challenged to achieve all of the REBA 2030 climate challenges. These are net zero carbon in both embodied and operational terms, to be a whole life carbon positive and energy positive with zero waste project. The carbon positive is to be achieved within 15 years, to provide a cost neutral solution to sustainability, and to provide zero waste in construction. And the next slide, please. There are lots of well-considered resources available to help. RICS have published a methodology for assessing whole life carbon, which can be used with your consultants. Now the next, please. The REBA 2030 challenge, which I mentioned earlier, it's a document with lots of advice. It can be used by you and your consultants, and strongly advised that it's used very early in the process from REBA stage 0, as mentioned previously. The next slide, please. So the UK Green Building Council has a definition that fits perfectly with MMC methodology of design, manufacture, assembly, and I add disassembly in there, and that's where the circular economy comes in. And when the amount of carbon emissions associated within a building's embodied and operational impacts over the life of the building, including its disposal, are zero or negative. That's the UK Green Building Council definition. And I think this model that they use fits perfectly with how net zero carbon should be considered across the whole of the building life cycle, including the disassembly and then reuse of the material. Next slide, please. If an airtight house is the option chosen for delivering new homes, then there must be an MVHR system. This control of ventilation is vital to maintain healthy air quality. However, it brings in some issues, and for example, relying on residents to manage the maintenance of the system is perhaps unrealistic. So companies such as Etopia have worked with partners to develop smart technology which will automatically send information about the system to asset owners. This informs part of the scheduled maintenance regime and eliminates costly unscheduled maintenance visits to identify the issue and then go back and fix it. Other ways technology provides a tangible benefit is to control the ambient heat in the home through monitoring and then evaluating the best solution to resolve issues, such as solar gain by operating smart blinds on the window. And the next slide, please. There are numerous reports on achieving best value through different procurement models, including the excellent Procuring for Value from the Construction Leadership Council. This particular report was published in 2018, and many others over the past 30 years have repeatedly stated that lowest cost is not the only metric. There should be a balance of key performance metrics. At AnyOffSite, we help you see the benefits of early engagement. I hope you can see what I've done there. The social benefits of the project and design and proposal. The economic benefits of the design. This includes methods of aggregating demand, such as building better or doing part of the National Housing Federation. Then look at the environmental benefits of the proposed design. Right at the start of a project, if these simple equations are used as part of the success criteria signed off by your board, there is the opportunity to ensure that future generations can benefit from the decisions that we as an organisation and as an industry make today. Thank you very much. The next slide, please. And that concludes my presentation, and I would now like to hand you over to Ryan Geldard of MAR so he can talk about his volumetric solution.
Thank you, Graeme, for your last introduction, and thank you also to the National Housing Federation for allowing this event today. It's very exciting to speak to you all, and especially quite timely, I feel, in terms of the way and that the industry is moving, and also the quite vocal government support for MMC, and also pushing towards the net zero carbon agenda. My name's Ryan Geldard. I'm the operations director for an MMC provider called MAR Offsite. The business has been around for around 13 years now, and our push into the residential sector has been a transition that we've been working towards the last 2 to 3 years. We are a category 1 volumetric supplier primarily, and we use a system of light gauge steel frame modules which are precision engineered in our factory, and we also utilise the same materials that you would typically find on a construction site, albeit always in a lean way and a considered way from a design and reuse and low embodied carbon perspective. Our aim as a business is to effectively provide us a wraparound solution that is primarily driven through our manufacturing operation, but we are also a business that can deliver the turnkey solution that customers in the marketplace often need. By leveraging the best available technologies in a manufactured way, we are in a unique position to most, in that we can truly condense build times and production times within the factory and on site, deliver high quality, affordable and low carbon housing quickly and at scale. We are commonly working within the market sector to reduce wasted materials, wasted labour, wasted effort, and that's something that's quite synonymously seen on some construction projects where some of our techniques are not developed and constructed. So we feel that the push towards a more sustainable future requires quite a sizable change in attitude, and that's something that we are now starting to see coming to the fore more and more year by year. The built environment plays such a pivotal part in all of our lives. There's not one person in the world who's not touched and changed by the built environment, and sustainability needs to be at the forefront of what we're doing. Many local authorities, registered providers, and even private enterprises and PLCs have established quite large net zero campaigns, many of whom have also mandated climate emergencies. And we feel that there's a real almost feel of carbon guilt within the marketplace and in general consumer behaviour, where everyone is a little bit more concerned, particularly over the last few years, as to the legacy that we're going to leave for future generations. The tide has truly turned. The UK government is backing increased targets for both housing supply and carbon credentials, and those things need to come together hand in hand. It's not a solution that can provide an answer to only one of those challenges. And we've got to remember as well that affordable housing stock remains a key part of the social economic fabric of the country too. Truly affordable housing has to be linked to wages and growth, and we need to try and find ways as a construction industry to deliver more at scale to bring those barriers down. And obviously the way we work in the living and working in the built environment is changing. The last 6 to 9 months have been quite a seismic shift in how we are all spending our time, where we're spending it, and what we're doing in the built environment. We're very mindful as a business that sustainable living solutions have to be truly considered against the value of what people have in their pockets. And it's got to be considered around that user behaviour of how people want to use a space and how they wish to develop, live their lives, raise their families in that space. To make sure there's a flexibility in the products so that over time, as needs change, there's no greater need to change the living arrangements too radically. And we're also quite keen as well to continue to raise the bar. You know, Graeme's touched on quite correctly. There's a need to look and procure for best value. And I feel the end is nigh for adversarial relationships where people go into construction work, not really assessing the risks and the opportunities within the project. And there's a real movement and shift towards friendlier, more long-term thinking where developments and partnerships can grow. And that's all for good reason. We feel that there are opportunities to really grow and create an exportable product that can be positioned globally in the UK, particularly with the agenda today. So there are many factors driving the need for change. You know, we've still got quite a sizable living accommodation issue. Many families, just in London, are still living in temporary accommodation. We're still seeing rising rates of fuel poverty, and with further suppression, potentially in wages over the next few years, that's going to be a difficult decision, and a decision that many families shouldn't need to make as to whether they are able to pay their rent or put energy into their home. And there's quite a lot of unaffordable housing options still in the marketplace. Construction still accounts, and the built environment accounts for 40% of the UK's carbon output, which is devastating in the world and that we live in today, and is only going to become a large problem down the line. We have a real opportunity, though, as professionals within the industry, to make a big change on that. So in what we're doing today, and also in the opportunities to do better retrofitting works. And COVID-19 has delayed many projects, and at a time where building is more important than it has ever been. So we must design with the future in mind. It has to be sustainable and it has to be future-proofed. We need to increase the operational energy efficiency and look to the supply chain, negating the need for retrofit solutions. It upsets me today that still we're building housing stock, which is new build, which collectively in time is going to need quite a sizable retrofitting project to bring that into a net zero. We need to focus on research and development at a time where all of us are looking around the marketplace for opportunities, and available pots of money may not always be within businesses resilience-wise. We need to collaborate to continually improve, and I think that we've got a lot more to gain from working together than necessarily in trying to create our own little empires. And we've got to be mindful that some of the best changes that we can see and deliver are not always in the high-tech, needing a silver bullet solution. Some of the things are just general good design practices that we can bring forward into better builds. Of course, there are opportunities then to consider that we may not be able to shoot for the stars today. So how can we involve and use modern methods of construction to ensure that future efficiency and additions or changes are considered? Can we strengthen roofs to potentially take future solar panels if the CapEx budget isn't there today? Can we put extra ducts and service voids in our homes so that it's available, ready for the next new infrastructure? So we encourage clients to really shoot for the stars, challenge your providers about what it is you're looking to deliver. Expect them to rise to the challenge, find the right partners who will do that, and try and aggregate demand, which your processes and systems in building better aims to do. And also then consider the embodied carbon and the EPDs. And I feel that this is an area of MMC which is going to really take off in the next couple of years when we start talking about not aggregation of separate products, but physically getting common and firm data about the environmental product declarations as to tell us from leaving the threshold of the factory, what are we in for in terms of embodied carbon and what's the future looking like? MMC is now a tried and tested approach. A few years ago, it was very difficult to identify things that chimed along with the current rhetoric. But now there are numerous providers in the marketplace, all offering different products and solutions, but all with a common interest in mind to increase productivity, material performance, and ensure that the builds last the test of time. We can name some of our projects in those mix too, and there are also other fantastic providers out there who can really help you achieve your goals. If we started from first principles, what is a home and how would it be best to be built? We're often clouded by the common and historic ways of doing things, but if we had to sit down with a fresh piece of paper, taking lobbying and things aside, how would we do it? And it's great to see some of those companies starting to come up with those good ideas, which we class ourselves in that sphere. We need to get to a point where we've reduced carbon footprint, made processes more efficient, realise cost savings for customers, and make sure that those result in lower prices. We've got to foster continuous improvement, which can only be done together. There's no point in a product or a system working if it doesn't complement the entire ecosystem. And we need to offer new opportunities of people looking to develop their skills and build a life. There's a growing skills shortage in construction, and we need to find ways that we can foster and bring forward in controlled scenarios, new trades, new skills emerging to the marketplace. Never ever we underestimate the importance of working with good people who can help you achieve those goals. Of course, we've set out a roadmap with us as a business to deliver net zero carbon products. We're constantly procuring with carbon reduction in mind, looking at offsetting schemes, recruiting and developing people who think like us, working with good consultants who really want to achieve these results for their clients. And we want to continue to develop on our standard products. And of course, that always begs the question then, are we doing enough? And is there more that we can do? And that's a constant driver for us as a business. I'd just like you all to thank you all for your time today and listening to what we've got to say. And I'll now pass on to Anthony Greer, who will give you some advice as to what they're doing too. Thank you.
Ryan, thanks very much. And thank you to the National Housing Federation for giving us opportunities to talk about zero carbon housing, how we see it's a choice for today. And the sphere that TALO Elements works within is in the provision of new build housing. So if I try and navigate forwards, there we go. So I want to start off with sort of a thought exercise where I think we're sat in a wonderful time in the home construction industry with real opportunity in front of us. So to illustrate a little bit of our thinking, I thought I'd play this video. So this is a video of a Formula One pit stop from the 1950s in Indianapolis 500. And it's quite interesting to look at it. A car comes in, they're doing a couple of tasks. They're changing wheels, just two, putting some fuel on, and doing some other bits and bobs. I've sped the video up because it takes quite a while. In fact, it takes 67 seconds to just change those tires. And you look at the guy hammering away with a hammer on the wheel nut. There's only one guy taking the wheel off, putting it back on again, dealing with the wheel nut, going around the other side. So they're achieving the same end. But you look at it now and think, ooh, you could do that better, couldn't you? But you'd have to look differently. You wouldn't just hammer faster. You'd have to change the way you do it. Let's now look forward to 63 years later. Melbourne, same job. Done. And I think this is really analogous to the opportunity we have in front of us. It took Formula One 63 years to go from 67 seconds down to 2. We now put that in the home construction world. Well, actually, this evolution has been going on. For example, our factory has been evolving and developing and refining how we can build homes to a better quality, faster, to an economic price for 40 years. And we now in the UK have opportunities to really take benefit from that. So if I try and move on a slide, rather than show you that video again, we'll look at another little video. And this one is of a project we've recently done up in Yorkshire. So our homes are built in our factory in Finland. We bring them over flat packed on a truck. And then we install them. So let's just look at this together. And you can start to see some parallels, and it poses some hopefully useful questions. So this just happened to be an example of just 17 homes. And the walls are lifted off the chuck, all in order, and placed directly onto the foundations, which are ready for it. And they include from the plasterboard all the way through to the external finish, if it's something like wooden cladding, or you can have bricks or render put on locally. But some things to take out of this that are quite analogous to the Formula One team. Everything is quiet. There's no need to be shouting about what we're doing. Everyone knows exactly what we're doing. The guys are highly trained. It's actually very, very calm. And it appears, especially in this video, as slow. But each one of these semi-detached homes took 1.5 days to assemble to a watertight state, with the windows in, the doors in. It's massive efficiency gains. And those efficiency gains then allow us to keep going to the goal of what is our goal? Well, higher quality, so every window is triple glazed, every door is low energy, and the house meets or exceeds passive home standards. And there's no reason why we can't do this. And there's no reason why we can't do this today. But it does take that change of thinking. It's not hitting the wheel nut harder. It's saying, actually, what's a better way to remove the Formula One tyre or wheel and replace it? Is the team different? This team here is 2 gentlemen who are highly trained and a crane driver, do the full house installations, rather than a cast of many with not clarity on exactly what they're doing, nor necessarily the expert training that they require. So I find it hugely exciting when I see these projects go up that deliver houses which are really very airtight, built in at the factory. So actually the job on site to make them airtight is quite low. It's not an aspiration you're chasing, it's just the way you work. So this fabric here puts you in a wonderful position. You've now got a super low energy structure, almost you can consider as your base camp to carbon zero. So I'll try and forward this on. And imagine this harks a little bit back to what Ryan said. If you're looking at a traditional UK built house, many built to current building regulations, the challenge to get from there to a carbon zero target is actually quite a large challenge. If you set your challenges out right from the beginning and your goals, motivations, and aspirations are well aligned to what you're achieving, and maybe you put in a fabric of the type that we provide, the challenge to get to carbon zero is actually quite small. It's very achievable, and it's achievable today with today's technology, and that's what we do. And I'll keep coming back to this theme of this needs to be done as a team and partnership with shared aligned values, goals, and objectives, right from the beginning of projects. But to get there, is it worth it? Well, the motivations, I believe, touch all stakeholders. So for the occupants, we're now providing homes to sections of society where if you can say, okay, here's the housing we're providing to you, you virtually have no heating bills and electricity bills forever. I think that's massive. Eradicating fuel poverty in a single sweep for those individuals who get to come in the homes you're providing. The landlords, greater certainty on rent payment because there's more money in the hands of the people who are renting. Local communities, more of that money then goes into the local community circulation, and again, bringing that extra support to that area. For developers, we're delivering faster, safer, lower risk, more reliable developments. You know when things are going to turn up. You know exactly when they're going to finish, to within the hour. Maintenance, this is a game changer. Gas is gone. The idea of having an annual gas inspection for safety, that's out the window when you start working in this way. There's minimal snagging. There's a phrase that I use, which is a little flippant, but the Finnish have 50 words for snow, but no word for snagging. Why would you? Why would you build something that you then know you have to repair shortly? So the process is, everything is fundamentally dried out in the factory. It's built indoors, it's transported dry, it's installed all that plastic sheeting, which is reused by the way. And there isn't any settlement and there isn't any twisting, cracking. And the fixtures, because we've managed to drive costs out through efficiency, you can then go to that shared aspiration and say, well, actually, let's make every window triple glazed. Let's make every door a big, heavy, low energy door. and really improve the robustness of all those fixtures. And then the final one down here is environment. This is a step change in sustainability. Product, process, waste. And if we just look at that on the next slide, this is intrinsically sustainable. So the core material we happen to use is wood, which is a lifetime sink of CO2 for the duration of this building. Production has been carbon zero for 40 years in our factory. It's not a new thing. Minimal waste through the whole process, with full embodiment of reduce, reuse and recycle. So this end product really is wonderfully sustainable and a joy to live in. So we feel really quite excited and privileged to be working in this space. Most importantly, privileged to be partnering with people who share our values, motivations, and want to, rather than tender for the bare minimum, to work in partnership to deliver excellence for the people who need it most. The benefits are, I believe, manifest, but it's a conscious decision now to, I believe, make a decision about how we develop. The time for developing the way we used to develop, because that's the way we used to do it, hence that's the way we're going to do it, I believe that time is gone. And it's our responsibility to choose our path forwards, whether it be carbon zero or a path that's right for you. That's a matter for you, but it is now a conscious decision to decide how we do this. So thank you for allowing me to share those thoughts. And I believe I now hand over to Jake.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you, Ryan, and thank you, Graeme. All three excellent presentations. So yeah, just a massive thank you to you all. I think Graeme started by giving a really clear kind of overview of MMC and net zero carbon and some interesting kind of diagrams of how you achieve that. And then on to Ryan, where he explained the product of the more volumetric approach, and then closing with Anthony on their timber frame panelized system. All excellent products and ideas, and I think everybody on the panel shares the same thought and drive to really see this sustainable future and how do we get there. So we got some time now to do some questions, and it'd be great to kind of just field a few questions out that we've been sent, and hopefully promote some real conversation, which I'm sure it will. So I've got several here to pick from, but I think I'm going to start with Anthony. You touched on the maintenance teams, and I think it's quite relevant that we speak about that now at the Asset Management Conference. So how do we ensure the asset and the maintenance teams know and understand these products and how they're going to maintain them in perpetuity? Also, customers that buy them outright.
Yeah, for sure. I think when again you're sitting at the beginning of a project, working out what success is for that team, maintenance has to be part of that. And understanding of maintenance, not just for the maintenance team, but also, as you say, the occupants. So really simplifying what it is that needs to be done. If you look today, an annual gas maintenance really comes quite high up on maintenance challenges. Moving away from gas, I think, is a huge step. Putting in systems that heating might not need maintenance for 20 years. It really changes the burden of that, and also the risk associated with that heating. I think also providing really clear instructions. So there are really nice opportunities with offsite manufactured systems of all types that were digital in the way it's designed. So you know where everything is. There's a manual for everything, and even getting to the point where, well, I'd like to put up a picture on the wall. Well, where's the stud in my wall? Well, it's just here because this is what my drawing tells me. So not only, I believe, can we simplify maintenance, we can create an environment which is almost like a user manual for my house. That makes it simple for all stakeholders of that building to interact with.
Fantastic. Ryan, have you got anything to add on that with some of the deliveries that you've done to date?
Yeah, yes. I mean, I echo many of the thoughts from Anthony there in terms of making it as user-friendly as possible and providing flexibility within the product. I mean, for us, we work with a whole range of RPs and local authorities, and what we've seen really value to them is if they've got an existing network of people in vans with the same sinks and traps that work for them in their area. It's important that we try and incorporate those into our design, and we have a very flexible system that allows those components to be identified and installed, and those to change on the production line to meet those requirements. I think where we've also worked quite nicely with a local authority just recently is that their maintenance teams have actually come and embedded themselves within our factory operation. So they've been able to walk around the factory, see how we've connected things, you know, and a lot of good ideas have come that have actually quite changed how they're looking to deliver the next time, albeit on different housing stock, maybe using a different build methodology. I think the key really in answer to the question is to be flexible, provide information that is easy for people to understand, and wherever possible, get that collaboration in, as Anthony's quite rightly pointed out, really early with the people that are going to be using it and maintaining it.
Fantastic, thank you very much. I'm going to chuck a different question, different sort of question actually. You actually made reference in your presentation about a cultural shift. I just think it would be great just to chuck that question out there around the panelists and just, you know, does this mean a cultural shift, and what do we mean by cultural shift, and how are we gonna move in that direction?
I'm happy to answer a little bit of that in terms of the way that contracts are currently drawn up. It is, and I think Ryan made reference to the adversarial industry that we take part in, and I think bringing in a design team at the very beginning, which may or may not include a manufacturer, then that will help to eliminate a lot of the impact of the adversarial methodology that we're all used to in the construction industry. And that doesn't mean that you have to remove the opportunity to gain best value in terms of cost, because even though you're working with a manufacturer to design something, it doesn't mean that you have to use that manufacturer. And if you work with independent designers, and I've mentioned a few of them already, that system of volumetric can go to any volumetric manufacturer, and likewise with an MMC level 2 like we get from TALO Elements, that could also go to any manufacturer. So you don't have to necessarily only work with the manufacturer that you engage with at the beginning.
I'd probably echo that from Graeme. I mean, it is really important that clients surround themselves with good independent advice and see what's in the marketplace and really explore their options. We call it in our business early engagement without necessarily early commercial commitment, because we've got to find avenues to upskill and educate prospective clients and their consultant teams and delivery teams to achieve the best result. I'd kind of like just to as well, just kind of impart that I feel there's a real cultural shift on a consumer level where everyone is a little bit more carbon conscious. And I think that that's factoring into a lot of the decisions that, you know, me and my family make. You know, I see it almost as being the discussions around if you had an option between a factory egg and a free range egg, then, you know, ultimately you want to do what's the most sustainable and, you know, in the best spirit. You want to know where things have come from, that it's set up, it's got low embodied carbon, and it works through its operational life without being an overburden for the generations that come behind. And I really do feel that, you know, that's coming up the agenda on a public basis, because I think that there's a growing concern across the population that we all need to be doing something about this and doing it quick.
Yeah. Anthony?
Yeah, I think I'd support the points both from Ryan and Graeme. And also, I come across things where some people look at our product and say, oh, it's triple glazed. We can't afford that. Can you do it with double glazed? And so start, well, the cultural shift, I think, partly is start from the beginning and think, what do you really want? What do you aspire towards? Give yourself permission to ask for the earth. And then start from that place and find out what can be delivered. Because there'll be so many surprises along the way that this new way of doing things delivers things that previously you wouldn't have asked for. I think it's important to ask and challenge this sector of the market to live to your aspirations, because I think you'll be pleasantly surprised about what you can get when you ask for them.
that segues onto a great question next, actually, which is preconceptions. And how do we challenge other preconceptions like that? So we automatically think triple glazing, we can't afford that, we must steer clear. What other preconceptions do you think are out there, and how do we kind of challenge them and navigate them?
I don't know. I have an interest in analog again. I like analogs. How long does it take to build a Porsche car in their factory? Well, it's actually only 30 hours to build a car. That's pretty impressive. Take that into our industry now. Actually, in the UK, there's been about 10,000 to be or have been made redundant from the automobile industry. They're people who are working in factories, on production lines, just the type of skill set that you require to work in offsite manufactured homing. So let's say those 10,000 people as an example, and let's say you put them into lots of TALO element factories. How many homes could we construct per year with that workforce? Well, the answer is 330,000 homes a year. So my question is there really, there's a preconception that there's not enough people to build homes. Actually, the question is, how should we build homes? And actually, is there plenty of people out there desperate for jobs with great skill sets that could support this? But we just have to think differently as an industry.
Any other of the panel want to talk about any preconceptions that we need to dispel? Cost and look as well, I suppose, is on the agenda.
I think they're two ones that I've come across in the last 10 years working in MMC housing, and there's an awful lot of people who believe that an MMC house, or I know there's other forms as well, of course, but if you look at what an MMC house looks like, people think it's going to be a square box and it's going to be really quite dull. It doesn't have to be. It can be, well, if we were to take the example of Goldsmith Street in Norwich, which is a project designed by Michael Riches, that won the Reba Sterling Prize, and that's an MMC social housing project that, quite frankly, looks fantastic. It fits into the environment really beautifully, and they have taken carbon as one of the key areas that they're working on, but they also had to deliver it to a certain cost. And people believe that cost is another big issue. They think it's really expensive, and that's partly because of the way that homes are procured and the route to procurement, and particularly if it's going through a principal contractor who adds margin on margin on margin, it's not the most efficient way to do things. So look at the way that that contract can be formed. And in the case of Goldsmith Street, I happen to know that was £2,200 a square metre, including all professional fees, and it also included the profit for each of the individual organisations concerned. That, I think, is about the right sort of price, and that was in East Anglia. That isn't dissimilar to other forms of construction, in my experience.
I echo that as well, Graeme. I mean, we're having a good day today, you and I. We're largely in agreement with everything. It doesn't happen all the time, you know, but at the same time, I think you've hit the nail on the head for me. I mean, we must look structurally at where cost in development exists. It's not just on the superstructure build. There's a lot of, you know, risk associated with construction, and we positioned our business to try and capture all of that. So we work with from design stage right through to completion. And as you say, there's a lot of opportunity in the wasteful processes and systems between physically getting homes on site. And I think the future belongs to, you know, good organisations who can help cross those boundaries, reduce that cost and price point, get that physically delivered as the project Graeme's just mentioned. And I think good news travels quite fast nowadays with social media and kind of the networks like today of what we're getting the opportunity to talk about best practice. But you're exactly right. We've got a rich history in the UK of we're a proud building nation. Some of our, you know, big landmarks are beautiful buildings that have been there many years. I don't think we need to move away from market leading, future-proof design and think that doesn't play in the same sphere as MMC. There's some amazing projects that to the untrained eye you would never know. that MMC was even a part of it. So nothing to fear from the movements in the market, but those perceptions have been eradicated month by month, I feel, at the moment.
Great, thank you. I've got one last item to sort of talk about. We spoke about profits and purpose coexisting, and I think everybody around the group kind of echoes that if we work together right from day one, we can absolutely look to achieve that. But we also want to just explore just a little about smart technology and how that can work within certainly MMC products, but also to support the sustainability agenda. And as you said before, Ryan, nudging our customers potentially to be more sustainable, you know, and maybe influencing them through a positive kind of experience. Has anybody on the panel had any experience of smart technology, the use and how it can benefit?
I guess our experience is we're now putting into homes the technology that takes it to carbon zero, but it's also smart, intelligent, and wired in. And I think the opportunity to actually tap into what Ryan was mentioning about the social desire to be more carbon zero. We shouldn't be penalising people, but we should be giving people the opportunity to make choices off their own back. So the wind has been blowing or the sun has been shining, you've got loads of hot water, loads in your battery, and you now know you could have a 3-hour bath, fill it 3 times, and there's no real consequence. Versus a day when there's not a lot, maybe you think I'll have a shower. That's not our choice, but it's a choice that people want to make. And it's kind of our job to enable them to live their lives in a way which they feel is as sustainable as it can be. And I think once you get that smart automation into the home, that smart technology to the homes, we can provide all those options really, really nicely.
Thank you. I'm going to have to wrap up now. I've had my my 2-minute warning, so we're going to have to. I just want to say thank you so much for all the guest speakers. It's really interesting and informative of the different products, but how everybody sits on that same stance and really wants to drive that sustainability. And I think the answer to this, of what I can kind of gather from today, is that it's absolutely right that collaboration and aggregation is key to this, and to make it affordable and achievable, that's exactly what we have to do as a sector and as a supply chain. So also thank you to the National Housing Federation as well for allowing this session to take place and bringing it into their conference. So thank you so much, and again, thank you to all the speakers.